Hello and welcome to the Spooky Chris podcast. My name is Chris Ringler. This is my microform podcast. I am an author, filmmaker, event coordinator, just kind of all around ne'er-do-well. For this episode, I'm going to be reviewing the film Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream is not a new film. It came out in the 1990s, memory serves, because it's been a minute since I initially had seen it. And I had recently grabbed the 4K anniversary release and had checked it out. And it's interesting how time changes your perception of things like art. On first viewing, I loved Requiem, and on this newest viewing, I still love it. Maybe not as much, but it also stings a little more. So I had first seen it on its initial release, and I saw it with a friend at an art house. And it's been long enough that I don't have, really bright memories for it. It's interesting. I still have somewhere the promo cards back then, and this would be the mid 1990s. One of the things you could get that they put out for indie releases were like basically postcards. Just like the poster art or some kind of key art and information about the movie and when it was going to be released. And I still have it. There is basically kind of a series they did for Requiem for a Dream, and I have them all somewhere. But they were photo images from the film, kind of giving the tone and kind of a glimpse at that world. And I still have those somewhere, but I remember going to see it, and it was interesting because I remember someone throwing up in the theater. I can't remember during, after the film, and it's one of those because it sticks with you because you never know why someone, it could be they had the flu, they ate something weird, who knows, but it adds to the mythology of the experience because I go back and I think about that and that someone got sick after the film, and I can see it, and if you've seen the movie you can see it. There are a lot of dark movies out there. There are a lot of grim movies, depressing movies, but there are a few that just unnerve you the way that Requiem does, in that it is a descent into hell, and in this case, hell, it truly is other people as much as it is yourself. For anyone that may not have ever seen it and happen to listen out of curiosity's sake, Requiem for a Dream follows essentially 4 characters, 3 being the main ones, and 3 of those being young people in their early 20s who are heroin addicts. I mean, they're just addicts in general. They're addicted to a lot of things, but their drug of choice is heroin. And basically they will do anything they have to get the money to get off, as they say. The young woman flirts with prostituting herself, going on dates with a married man and flirting with him and putting it out there that she's available when she's not, to curry his favor and attention. She essentially is for lack of a better term, she is a prostitute that is using what she can to get what she needs. There is another, her boyfriend, she is played by Jennifer Connelly. Her boyfriend is played by Jared Leto, who will steal his mother's old television set to hawk it to get enough money to get Smack, with the promise that he will get her TV back, which his mother, it seems, always has to buy it back herself. The mother always looks at him as this good boy, and you see a picture of him at graduation with the mother, father, and I think his name's Jim, but Jared Leto's character. And, it's this picture of all this promise, and then you see the reality. And as anyone who has entered the deep waters of adulthood knows, that high school promise and the reality of adulthood are vastly different. And it's one of those, it's a very hard reality that some just don't adapt to. As an aside, I don't know that we get young people ready for adulthood properly. You look at the classes we teach, and the way we teach them and the way we treat kids is, you go into high school and it's like, you're an adult, act like an adult. But here's a list of rules and a list of restrictions and a list of things that you have to do but act like an adult. And you better get ready for real life. It's going to be hard, but we don't train them on how to survive in this hard world. So it's interesting, and you can see why, a lot of kids don't succeed, at least at first. You can look at the entering of adulthood kind of like going on a roller coaster, and adolescence, you get to that top and you don't know what's over that top of the hill, and then all of a sudden you're barreling forward and you're an adult. It's sometimes more frightening than we ever had imagined, and a lot of times though it's just getting it done. And I think that's what's lost too, is it's like, yeah, it's hard, but sometimes it's just getting it done, and in the getting it done, you figure things out bit by bit. So the third part of this foursome is the mother who is addicted to television, more importantly to a specific infomercial. And it's an infomercial about leading your best life and really just kind of tapping into all of this potential and richness that we're all missing out on. And of course, this one person, Tappy, has tapped into it, and he can provide you the keys to success. And it's always interesting. It's always these people who they're the modern day evangelical preachers banging on the podium, telling us that they have the way, they know the way. Just if you listen, if you put a little money in a collection plate, then everything you could ever want is yours. And unfortunately, the lonely and desperate will fall for these things. And this mother has, and she is that's all she watches, is that infomercial over and over again. And the last person in this is played by Marlon Wayans, who thinks back to a time when he was held by his mother and the world seemed full of hope and promise. And he wants desperately to kind of be in that world. And at one point he hatches the plot, hey, why don't we buy enough smack that we can deal? And then once we're dealing, like, they can move up in, he has connections, then they can move up in the ranks and they can make more and more money. The young woman wants to open a clothing shop where she designs the clothes, and her boyfriend wants her to do that and supports her. He wants to take care of his mother, so that they have these big dreams, and they make a move towards that. And it is interesting because it is almost a portrait of manic depression. It's because it's the mania part, where all of a sudden everything's great, the money's coming in, everything looks promising. It looks like there's a new hope in the world. The young man is able to get his mom a new TV and surround system. The young woman and he can look at spaces for her shop. Marlon Wayans' character can start to move up potentially in the ranks of that dealer, and they all have all of this promise and hope that they can kind of make forward steps and not keep going hit to hit. But unfortunately, as the film tells you, fall comes. And the mother, who had gotten a letter that she was going to be on TV, she was going to be on that infomercial show with Tappy. So she decides she has to fit into a dress that she hasn't fit into in years. And she goes to the doctor and he puts her on diet pills. So uppers. And she keeps popping them, and as she does it, she takes more and more and more, and she becomes addicted to those. At one point, her son sees a fellow addict and tells her stop taking them, and she laughs him off and like, no, the doctor prescribed these, this is fine. But he sees what his mother's becoming, and she's becoming a junkie. And it's same seeing same. Their opportunity blows up in their faces, quite literally. And as the film progresses, it is a slow and steady decline into the abyss. And we see the characters and how far they are pushed and how deep down into the hole they get, where you are left at the end wondering who got it worse, and you don't quite know. It is a harrowing journey and heartbreaking. And the most heartbreaking part is not the watching what happens to the addicted, but watching how they are abused by people that work the system and work addiction. The young woman played by Jennifer Connelly is fiending, and she says horrible things to her boyfriend, Jared Leto, and they essentially break up, and he gives her, out of rage and hurt, he gives her a number he had gotten from Marlon Wayans' character of essentially a pimp who he doesn't want money for drugs. He wants women. And he's like, here, there you go. If you're willing, to do whatever you need to get your fix, there you go. And we had already seen her character debase herself. And I think in the film it's portrayed that she's always in control with the businessman that she sleeps with. That she kind of plays the game. She's in the power. Well, when she finally has to go to him and when they need the money for the investment, and she isn't in power anymore, and he knows it. He can tell, and the game it favors him. And now we see it again, where she has to go to this man and play seductress in the most half-hearted of ways to try to get drugs, and she prostitutes herself again, and that journey is only down. And again, we see the mother played wonderfully by Ellen Burstyn, who people will recognize from The Exorcist. Her character essentially loses her mind because of the pills and malnutrition. She hadn't been eating correctly because she was trying to lose this weight. And she is found, she tries to head to the offices of the production company, and it ends up in a hospital, and no one sees her. They see an old lady who is crazy, but as they intubate her, as they try to feed her, like, they don't see her. She's depersonalized. The woman, Jennifer Connelly, is put in a sex show, and she is depersonalized as these all these white bros in their business suits watch she and another woman having sex. Performing a sex act, I should say. It's not even as intimate as sex. Marlon Wayans ends up in the system and is not seen as a person. Jared Leto's character, again, is treated like meat, and it's awful. And anyone. So for me, you sit there and you go like, ugh. Y'all kind of did this to yourselves. You did this. You shouldn't be upset. Like, can't feel bad for you. But then you have to stop. Because that's not how addiction works. Nobody wants to be addicted. Nobody wants to go through that. Addiction is that 30-second high, where you are the top of the mountain and you have clarity and wisdom and you are the all-seeing eye. But that lasts such a small time. But again, it's worth it to get that. So they're always chasing that because there's something else wrong with them. We're all not that far from that. Just like we're all not that far from being the person homeless muttering to themselves. Because there's a lot of people who self-medicate and did that during the COVID. Because you're isolated in more ways than one. You don't have physical affection. You don't have your friends around you. You don't have your family around you because you're trying to stay alive. So a lot of people turn to self-medication, be that pills or alcohol or whatever. And you have to have your own wisdom and strength to step back and say, this is a problem. I need to fix this. Or you have to be lucky enough to have someone that can have your ear and say, this is a problem. You need to fix this. Let's fix this. And in this film, there is no one like that. Jared Leto tries, but his mother is just too far gone. And they don't have the relationship. I mean, Jared Leto's drowning. A drowning person can't save another drowning person. But as much as they abuse themselves and it points them each other, it is the system in place. It are the people that aren't addicted that do the worst sins to them, that treat them not like people but as non-people, as objects. That's what's the most harrowing part of this as I watch this as an adult. Because we see this every day. We see fights in public and people, instead of stopping them, they film them. We see homeless people on corners and we don't try to, and this is not a wagging my finger. This is all of us. We don't try to stop them. I don't, because there are systems in place for them, but some of them don't want those. I mean, much like you have people who don't want to be told to get vaccinated, despite the fact that they may even think that it might not be a bad idea. They don't want to be told what to do. And it's going to be the same thing with a lot of these people on the street, is whatever other issues, some of them don't want to be told what to do. We see it in the workplace, in schools, everywhere around us. And humanity isn't getting wiser and kinder. We've not changed. We've just found better ways to broadcast it. We're always looking for fame and fortune and popularity and sex appeal and all of these things. We're always chasing these things that don't fill us but for a moment. And that's what the Requiem for a Dream. It is the Requiem for the American dream, this dream we were told as children. And generations were told that you could, if you worked hard and put your head down and did what you needed to do, that everything would work out, that you would be able to get what you needed, you'd have a chance for your dreams, and all of these things that you believe in, and it's just not the case. Not everybody gets that. And there have only been more roadblocks put up, based on race or sex or belief or sexuality. culture, your identity. Because as people try to be more themselves, they find that others don't necessarily want that. So Requiem for a Dream is a heartbreaking film. It's a gorgeous film. It's wonderfully scored. It's beautifully made. I still have issues with pacing and things. It's not a perfect film, but its effect is lasting, and it still has its effect that it did back then. Its obliqueness almost adds to it because it's not, A, B, C, D. It kind of takes you on a different path, but it's the the feeling you get from it all that lasts, and that doesn't go away. And it's a film that shows addiction, like, I hate to say the word wonderfully, but wonderfully, because it shows not just the image of the degenerate drug addict that's debasing themselves and every society and everything. These are all of them were the good kids that were loved. They have Jennifer Connelly's character comes from money. They're not trash, as it were, but unfortunately they all got hooked on things and ended up in the gutter just the same. And they still have dreams. They still have hopes. They still have, the capacity to love. They're still human. Something that we, again, aren't shown a whole lot of and don't want to see. You don't want to see the monster as having a soul. You want to just see it as a monster. And if these people, these young people, could be anybody, could be our own kids, that makes it even harder to wag our finger at them. But society doesn't try to help them. It snitches on them and does everything possible to make sure they pay for the sin of being addicted, which, of all the great sins you can commit against society, it's a real petty one. It's definitely not a movie for everyone. It's not a message for everyone. It's not a story for everyone. But it's still an important film, and it's one that is obviously worth seeing. And it's one of those that you don't want to watch through. Like, it was interesting because I had to kind of turn it off. There's aspects of it that hit too close to home. My mother had been addicted to home shopping for a short time. And, I can see my mom in Ellen Burstyn's character. And it's hard. It's hard, what she goes through and the things. And it's hard knowing that this is still our society and this is still, who we are. We haven't changed. I listened to a few minutes of the commentary, and Aronofsky says that, during a gnarly scene, with the scene with all of the frat boys, essentially frat boys, they're businessmen, which is interesting because they're portrayed to be as businessmen, but they're business boys, which is what a lot of these kind of guys are. Is that he was like, no, this is real. Like, this is real life. Like, this is out there, and it's worse. And we know this. We know how bad society is, and we know, as bad as it is, it can be worse. And it's always interesting. There's always this great debate about whether or not snuff movies exist as a thing. Snuff movies being films essentially where someone pays for the life of someone to be brutalized on camera and filmed, and then that film is given to the bankroller as something of a fetish. I mean, in a weird way, everything exists. But the thing is that for something like that, is that people are willing to brutalize and kill without money. So it's not that does snuff exist, it's that how could it not exist? It just may not be what we think it is. And that's the sad fact, and that's the sad requiem for our own dream of this society is that while we're all too busy looking up and looking down and looking away, we're not looking at each other, and we're not seeing the desperation some of us are going through, and it's rough. And I think, Requiem is one of those. It's an important film. It's not one you want to watch, like I say. Like, I had to turn it off for a minute because I just wasn't in a headspace for it. But that's not a bad thing. And it's not a bad thing to turn the movie off, to go back to it. We always like to think of the film experience as pristine and this, like, you're in a chapel and it's an act of worship. But it also can be something you go through and something you have to and something you get through. And I've definitely watched movies that I enjoyed on a level, but that they're not what I'd watch for fun. But you still get something out of them. Requiem's not a movie for fun. But it's important because of that. Because it's sometimes important to look into the abyss. And the unfortunate thing is that you do find that something's looking back at you, but many times it's a mirror and you're looking just at a part of yourself you don't want to see. Requiem for a Dream is a heck of a movie. The 4K is pretty nice. It's got a lot of extras on it, bells and whistles and such. I was just more interested in talking about the film. If you want to learn more about me, go to my website, spookychris.com. I have all kinds of books and blogs, and my movies are on there. I hope you check it out. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.